Well, I think it's about 12 years ago that I went to a market of mountain people in Mae Hong Son province, and schools were presenting themselves there, and they were telling about their hardship. So I said, "Can I do something for you?" And they said, "Well, we don't have electricity. Can you give us batteries because the batteries run out?" So I said, "Oh, say, okay, I think I can find the money for that." So that is how I started, very small, I think with €100 or something. And I raised the money and bought the batteries and gave the batteries to that school. But then it developed, and I, yeah, I get more and more knowledge about what the problem was in education for mountain people. And the biggest problem they have is they could not go half of the year to school because of the rainy season. The roads developed themselves in mud streams, and by that they were missing a lot of lessons. So they never finished the primary school. A lot of children even didn't bother to come. So for that reason, if you haven't finished the primary school, you never can go to the middle school, let's say high school. So that was out of reach of all the mountain people. So then I thought, okay, what is necessary to get those children to school? And that's our objective, getting children to school. First to basic education, primary school and middle school. And then I thought, okay, the main thing is that they have to stay at school, but there are no facilities. I have to say the Thai government really puts a lot of schools everywhere. It's very small schools, sometimes really in bad condition, but at least there's a school, which in some other countries you cannot say. But in Bangkok, they have no idea that there are mountains in Mae Hong Son. So the only thing they build is a small, very simple classroom or something like that. But for that reason, the children cannot stay at school. They need dormitories, they need a canteen to eat or make their homework, they need toilets, they need clean water, and they need water in the dry season. And all those things the schools did not have. For that reason, they did not come. So then I thought, okay, if my objective is getting children to school, I have to build that kind of facilities. So I asked the Department of Education that is in the south of the province, for instance, there are 185 schools and they all belong to a Department of Education. And in the north, you have 135 schools, they belong to another Department of Education. So I said, okay, give me 3 schools and tell me what they need, a dormitory or a canteen. I will come back in 2 weeks' time. So I came back in 2 weeks' time, and of course, there was no plan, no presentation, nothing. So when I said, where is that guy I talked to? And he said, well, he's on the other side of the mountain. I said, well, I don't mind. Get him on the phone. Oh, we don't dare. He said, okay, then you just give the phone immediately to me. So I said, well, I'm here now. I don't have any plans. I said, I'm staying here until tomorrow, 12 o'clock. And you still have a chance to give me 3 plans, what the school wants. I said, but 12 o'clock, I'm gone, and you will never see me again. Anyway, so really, I was in a guest house, small guest house, 12 o'clock, ring, and there were 3 directors of the schools, each with a plan. And that was a canteen, a dormitory for teachers, and a dormitory for students at 3 different schools. So it took me the first year, a year to raise that money. I raised that money, and a year later, again a dry season where you can build. I built that. And then slowly, I think that grows. So more and more people were willing, sponsors were willing to donate for this. And I think the reason for that is it's very concrete. I mean, you can see the result. You can see the result in buildings, but you immediately could see also the result in numbers. So very soon, within a period of 2 years, the school population doubled or tripled just because there's a dormitory. And well, in fact, I think what we do as the Samsara Foundation, in fact, it's very simple. I mean, you build those facilities And automatically the children are coming. And because we now also build facilities for the teachers are now also willing to teach at those very remote schools. In the past, their accommodation was so terrible. I mean, I would not want to stay there one night. So, and many teachers, which are of course of better families, with richer families from bigger cities, they move to there and it's another world. So most of the time they return immediately, or their parents didn't allow their girls to teach there. But now with very good accommodation, they do. So that's mainly what we do. We build those basic facilities so that children can go to school, stay at school. Some children go back in the weekends because it's only 2 hours walk and you can walk that. So they leave on a Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock and they walk home and they start on Sunday night or early, very early. And at 8 o'clock on Monday, they are back at school. And during the week, they stay in our facilities. But you also have children who have to walk 6 hours. Well, 6 hours to walk in a weekend 2 times, that's too much. So they stay the whole term to school and they walk back with the school holidays um, because those roads, even in a pickup or whatever, it's impossible. So you have to walk, and that's the only way, especially in that time. So that's why we need to give all those boarding facilities and what comes out of that so that they can stay at school and do. And I think with this, we brought, instead of, I think, I think 40% of the children finished before we came in the primary school. And I think now it's 95, 98%. And that continues also to the middle school. And now all those hill tribe children, they are now knocking on the doors of the high schools because they have finished primary school now during those 12 years. They have finished middle school. And a bunch of them, they want to go to high school. High schools never had a problem with accommodation. They had a certain amount of kids. Those kids were from the nurses, from the teachers, from the policemen, from the civil servants, and they all went back home after school time. So no problem. You don't need dormitories for them. Their houses of their parents are very near. But mountain children, they never could go to high schools. But now they all come. And the high schools refuse them. Not because they refused mountain people, but they refuse them because there's no accommodation. They say there's commercial accommodation in the bigger towns, like Mesariang, Melanoy, Pai, or whatever. But hill tribe children, and families, they cannot afford that. And it's also often not safe for the girls, but also not for the boys. They get drug-related problems and all that. So the high schools came to our foundation a year ago and they said, when you're finished with the primary and middle schools, can you please do also build the facilities at the 9 high schools, which are left as the only schools where we did not build the facilities. And that's what we just started last month, and we will do the next 2 coming years. And then I think we have achieved our goal to get most of the children at least to basic education and a big percentage even to higher education. Main ingredients are, well, first our objective, of course, which is getting children to school. And then the ingredients for our success also, but also I think for success for many NGOs working like us should be, is stick to your objective. I mean, we are often approached for helping the schools with their health situation or their food situation. Yeah, or like computers or whatever. Um, I mean, I could do many things. Or we built at the school and the village nearby said, oh, but we also want a water installation or something else. But you have to stick, I think, on what you're doing because you get stronger in it. You get more spin-off of it, which I can tell later about. But it's very important. So you have to say no, although I'm not against more sport equipment or more computers or a better health or better food. But that's not our objective. And you have to stick to that objective. I think it's very important because only by then you will become more or less a master in what you are doing. And otherwise, you're all over the place. And that brings me immediately to the second ingredient, which I think is very important. That is, you have to focus, to limit or focus. To focus can be on a team. So for us, it's that education. That also means you work in the pyramid of authority of education, which is a different one from how villages are organized, how health is organized. That's all different. So within this pyramid of education, you can build up your relationships. If you do also something in health, you also have to establish relationships there. Yeah, you need more people, more overhead, more whatever to do all that. Stick to it, I think. That is stick to a team, but also I think it's very important to stick to a region. I see many also smaller foundations, they have one project in Indonesia and one project in Laos, one project in Burundi, one project in just name it. And I think, however, you can build up experience, you really can build up trust, you can build up relationships, you can build up peer learning between the schools. If you have a school there and there, even within Thailand, if you do a project with the sea gypsies in the south, for instance, and one in Mae Hong Son, you're not learning that much. Okay, they have a dormitory and they have a dormitory. They're both happy with the dormitory, and that's good. I have nothing against it. But more spin-off is never will come out of it. But because we started very small, like I started with €100, and now in a period of 8 years, I will spend for 400,000 euro a year. I spent all that in the same province. And not at the same school, of course, but in the same kind of things. Because of that, if you have a road through the mountains like that, you can do one school there, but you will never have spin-off. We do the schools there. So we do, for instance, 12 schools, which are more or less in that part of the mountain. So what you get, if you get enough money for that, of course, too, you raise enough money, is that the janitors, the school directors are working together and they are buying the materials together, which means they can get it cheaper because the volume is bigger. And because of that, they will save some money. And that's also one of the ingredients of Samsara. I never give 1 cent more than is in the contract and agreed upon. I never need 1 cent back. So if they are working like entrepreneurs and manage to get the same result with less money because they work together, fine. I don't want to back the money. I mean, they can do something else with that money for their school, which they do. So all that kind of spin-off, that the government now paves the roads to all those schools because all the schools are growing in population. You only can have that you focus on the region and can do so many schools. Now the government is building kindergartens on all those schools because we help the primary schools and the middle schools to develop. And now they put the money in for the kindergartens, which is much better because now mountain people learn Thai language before they go to the primary school. Before that, you have teachers who speak Thai and the children who speak Karen or Hmong or whatever, well, they don't understand each other for one word, and they have to learn and teach each other. Well, how can you? Now they start already at the kindergartens. So that means the result, the spin-off is so much bigger. And I think a lot of NGOs in the world can work much more efficiency and much more efficient by doing this. That's also very important. Then I think you have to lessen the bureaucracy as much as possible. Well, one thing is I hate that, so that's natural part of me. But I mean, we don't have many. Yeah, what do you have? Meetings and paperwork and all that kind of things. We have contracts, and we write them in 1.5 page. And in 1.5 page, you write the most important things into it. They have to sign that and to stick to it, because I'm responsible for my sponsors. I mean, they cannot build something else. I mean, then I have a problem. But limit your bureaucracy and yeah, let me see. I wanted to say something about that. Yeah, it's very important, I think, to focus your work on the local situation. Sometimes a Dutch architect say, "Oh, Annelie, I saw all those buildings, great, but can you not design them a little bit more creative or whatever?" And then I said, "Of course you can." But then now I have built 400 buildings at all those schools. If I should have done that, I maybe could build 10. So that's the difference, because all our buildings are built by the parents of the children together with the teachers, and sometimes with the help of the children. But you cannot put a fancy building in it because nobody can build that. So you have to adjust your design to what is locally known and what they can locally manage to do. If you don't do that, it will be a failure. Or it has to be your pet project and you have to put all your money and time into it, fine, but you cannot work like we do. So we build very straight buildings, for instance, never with glass into it, because glass will be blown out in the mountains soon, and they never replace it. So you have all those broken glass windows, which really looks like the building is already there for 20 years. So we don't put glass into it. We find other solutions. So you have to think about it. Even in clean water installation, take the clean water installation, which is in the home of every teacher at their homes. They know how that function and work. And even from Europeans, they invent the cheapest, whatever, simplest clean water installation on the world. I believe them, but they have one big problem. The local people have no clue how it works. Teachers are removed from one school to another without any notice. They never see their successors. So they never see their predecessors. So they never can transfer any knowledge. So maybe you can train that teacher, but that teacher is gone in a month's time. Nobody knows how to clean the water installation, how to change the filter or whatever. So it's very important adjust to the local methodology, the local needs, and what local people can do. And decentralize as much as possible. I mean, I do all those buildings projects with one Thai lady. We only with 2 persons, and we managed to do that. And we went from one building to now, I think, in a 3 month period, we do at least 50 buildings. Uh, how can you do that? Only when you decentralize everything to the schools. The schools are responsible. They build the materials, they find the people in the villages and they motivate the people to work with them. I'm not going to do that. I don't know the parents. I don't speak their language, also not. So it makes no sense to do that. They do that. And because they're all individual units, you can expand because you only have to monitor those units, but not the projects itself. And you have to monitor, I think, on result and not on the process. The way how they do it, if they discuss it in the village, they find 5 volunteers, they build it with 5 volunteers, I don't mind, as long as they meet the date when it has to be ready. If they do it with 40, fine, they do it with 40. If they pay those 5 people a little bit, or they only give food to the 40, fine, I don't mind. Where I monitor everything is on the result. There has to be a building. There's no wood in it because they will cut every tree for that. It has to be that strong. It has to be safe. It has to be painted 3 times, otherwise the paint comes off in 2 months' time. Well, all that kind of thing. So you monitor on the result, but not on the way how they do that. But you tell them, okay, but in February it has to be finished because otherwise I will never get money from the same sponsors for next year. You have to finish a project. That's sometimes difficult to understand. They said, well, we finished 90% of all the projects. I said, yeah, but 10% not. And I cannot say to the donor, well, those 10% will come. They will not give me the 100% new money. So you have to do that. Is the result that we really managed to get all those children to school, and that you can see that from the statistics. That's really a school which were 127 children now has 435 children thanks to that. So of course that is very important because that's why we put all that money in from other people. So that's fine. But I think more on the side, what is really important for us that, for instance, schools now are working together. Schools never worked together. I mean, they were in the same difficult position and maybe one mountaintop from each other, but they never worked together, never. Now, because we said, okay, if you can buy the materials together, you maybe save some money and you can put the janitors together, so maybe you can have some help to weld the roof. Now, by that, they were working together. The directors know each other now, the teachers know each other now, and they do now many things together, more than only the obligated sports day, which they always organized because Bangkok requested that. Of course, they all think it's fun, that's not the point, but that was the only thing that they came together. So that's a very good thing. What is also, I think, which I'm very happy about, is every school has a kind of parent-teachers committee. But in Mae Hong Son, they were all sleeping. There was not one active. But because we said we don't pay for contractors, because contractors at that mountain school will run away with the money in no time, and you will never find the contractor anymore. So I could not involve contractors, so I had to find something else. And I saw in my village, where I live, that on Saturday and Sunday, villages help each other in building an extra room or an extra house. So that concept that you help each other and was known. So I told the schools, you have to involve the village and you have to involve the parents. That's what they had to, because otherwise they could never build it. But because of that, the end result is those parents for the first time came at the school. First for building, but later we always invite them for the opening ceremonies, and they are so proud that what they built for their children. And they could see that how the children sleep in our dormitories is so much better than at home in their simple huts. So they were so proud, and they did not send what they did before, to send one of the 4 to 6 children to school. Now they send all of the children to school. They all want their children to stay in that dormitory. They all know the teachers now. And so the teachers' parents committees, but also really the contact between the teachers and the parents really grows automatically out of this. And that I never thought about that before, not in this way, but that came out of it. So yeah, that kind of things I'm really very happy. I think that it's even more than only the nuts and bolts and the concrete and the cement and the result of that. So yeah, I'm happy with that.